Welcome to Colts Law. I'm Lawrence Owen, and today I have a very special guest. Sorry for the delay. We were sitting here talking backstage before this actually happened because he joined in just at the last moment. He had a new upgrade for his equipment, and he was trying to get that all set up. But hey, some interesting news, not just free agency news, but Carson Wentz news we're going to get to right after this.
All right. So I guess now you understand what the plan was.
Absolutely. At Colts Law, we talk Indianapolis Colts football.
We're going to stick to what we know, fundamentals and technique, 1% better every day.
What's going on? And now, without further ado, let me bring in Colts Brawl. We got Michael Terrazas?
Terrazas, yes.
Oh, I got it right. Oh my goodness. I was saying Terrazas earlier in my head, and then I tried to remember exactly how you said it. Colts Brawl, man. Welcome to the stream. I'm very happy you were able to come in and join me and talk a little bit about free agency and some other things that's been going on, especially today.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I'm super stoked about it. I know a little bit about you, man, before I even got into this stuff. I remember, the film stuff that you did and all that stuff, man. I've kept track of you, but thank you for having me on. Huge honor and a huge privilege. Well,
I appreciate that very much. Why don't you go ahead, in case there's some people out there that doesn't actually know who you are, give them a little information about yourself and some places they can find you. By the way, before he does that, you could go down in the description of the video, and I got some links there for his Twitter and where you could find him on Colts Brawl.
Well, okay, so Michael Terrazas, lead voice, leader of the Colts Brawl. I lead a very, very strong group of men, and I just want to give them a couple of shout-outs here, Destin Adams and Zach Boyd, and those are my co-hosts over there at Colts Brawl. I can't do it without them. They're my right-hand men. I love them so much, and I would not be anywhere. Colts Brawl wouldn't be anywhere without those guys. So those are the guys I want to highlight first and foremost. Colts Brawl, you can follow them on Twitter, Colts Brawl. Both of those letters, Colts and C and B, will be capitalized. So make sure you follow them. All of our apps will be in that bio. If you want to follow us, I don't even mind if you don't follow me. Go follow Colts Brawl. Go follow those guys, man. I'm always trying to hype my guys up, and I guess that's all I have to say on that.
All right, I want to go a quick shout out to the chat right now. I got a lot of Patriots guys that come in here and talk because I do a lot of stuff with my boy Dear Pats Nation, kind of like an outsider, perspective of his team. So my Patriots updates is in here along with King J, who is also a Patriots guy. Colts Nation, what's going on? CNS 420, I believe that's also a Patriots guy, I think. Not 100% sure. Jacoby Myers, obviously a Patriots guy. What's going on, Mr. Wide Receiver for the Patriots that I just did a film room for DPN on. Oh, and wow. Scared and Sarah Small. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. We'll get to the chat as soon as Michael and I get through our topic. So as usual, any super chats I'll get to first. And then, of course, my regulars that come in, I will make sure I get to them as well. So before we get too hardcore into it, I'm curious, did you see this posted by Michael Pittman Jr., him, Des Patman, and the new Colts quarterback, Carson Wentz, out there in California throwing the football around?
Yes, I did see that. I actually tweeted about that earlier today, and Wentz to Pittman for 6, man. That just has a beautiful ring to it. I'm very high on Pittman. If people who are watching have not, heard my opinion of him on Colts Brawl Podcast, I'm just in love with Pittman, man. I love the man that he is, and he's been groomed by his father. A lot of advice, and those of you that don't know his father, Michael Pittman Sr., that's a stud right there. But I did see that, and man, it brings joy to my life.
Oh yeah, there was so much crap talk from national media when, Michael Pittman was on TMZ saying, well, Carson Wentz texted me right away asking about number 11, and I told him I'd rather not give it up. And, and then Pittman and what they didn't say afterwards was what Carson was like, I was thinking about changing my number anyhow, so it's all good, right? And then he said, we're talking about getting together later on same interview, which of course national media did not cover on that. We're talking about getting together in California, throwing the football around. Carson Wentz wouldn't be doing this with Michael Pittman Jr. if there was any kind of issues over number 11. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, man, national media, they need a story. Carson Wentz, they want to dig at him a little bit, and maybe rightfully so, but there's just no story here between Pittman and Wentz. There's no drama or anything. Pittman is unbothered by this whole situation.
Yeah. See, this is a great thing also because you remember last year when we had Phillip Rivers come in, he had no kind of previous contact with any of the players. He wasn't throwing the football around. But of course, we were on more of a very more strict COVID situation at that point in time. Yeah. Now we got Carson out here throwing with Colts players. I love the idea of Wentz to Pittman, like you said earlier. And I think Pittman has the ability to jump to that number one slot, that number one spot at the wide receiver position, especially given that Wentz is out there right now trying to get that connection with him early, before OTAs, before camp, before preseason. If there is a preseason, I'm expecting a preseason, but it has yet to see. Any other thoughts about this picture that you see here and what it represents?
I truly hope Desmond Patman can take that next step as a receiver. I mean, if he's getting that chemistry down with Wentz, I really like his chances of making this roster. He was riding the practice squad all of last year. He was upgraded to the active roster, but that was, to protect him on the Colts roster, making sure no one signed him off. And he was inactive, didn't play a snap all season, but hopefully some chemistry is building, and that shows up in training camp.
Absolutely. So I've had quite a few guests this week. I got more guests coming on as we continue. Now, this is the last time that I'll have a guest on before tomorrow's official tampering period begins. Mm-hmm. And so that is a big deal. Now, what a lot of people don't, they're like, well, free agency actually starts. That's just tampering. It's teams contacting free agents saying, hey, look, what are you looking for? Can we talk about possible no contracts can be signed until the 17th officially, but teams can actually get in and actually talk to players and their agents. Is there any players that have been released as of late that you think Ballard just threw right up to the top of his list of going, I need to contact this guy's agent and see what we can get accomplished here?
The first name that comes to mind, Mitchell Schwartz, Chris Ballard. He was on staff when they signed Mitchell Schwartz, who was previously in Cleveland. So there's that connection, obviously. That's the first guy that comes to mind. Zach Ertz, from my understanding, is a guy that the Colts will pursue if he is released. If it's a trade, they've given up enough draft capital for the year and beyond. So if he's released, they'll be interested. Casey Hayward was just released earlier today, literally not even an hour ago. And that's a guy I think he'll look into, but I think Mitchell Schwartz is the only guy that I think comes to mind in terms of, who's been released lately, who Ballard will target.
All right. So there's a few guys. Let me type this in real quick because Zach Hicks, who I had on last night.
Great man.
Yeah, I really enjoy talking to him. We don't always see eye to eye, but last night we sure as heck did on most things, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Which was a shock in my opinion. All right, so he dropped a list here. Let me get this up on the screen. Here we are. This is his Colts free agency predictions, and he's got Jacoby Brissett walking, that T.Y. Hilton will end up getting re-signed, Xavier Rhodes, you don't think will come back. Justin Houston, Danico Autry, don't think will come back, even though he said he loved Danico back. He don't think he'll resign. He thinks that we will resign TJ Carey, Anthony Walker, AQ. Oh, yeah, okay. It took me a second. Malik Hooker also walking. Zach Pascal, obviously, Mo Alley Cox, George Odom, all being RDFAs. He expects them to be re-signed. Is there any changes to this list that you think might actually happen that you may not agree with?
Oh man, if I'm being honest, I mean, I got to get a little closer here. So if anyone's wondering why I'm getting so close, I have a retina deficiency, so that's why I'm getting so close. If people ask that, even with glasses, guys, yes, it's that bad. But Jacoby Brissett walks, that doesn't change. T.Y. Hilton, he'll come back. Xavier Rhodes, I think he'll walk. From my understanding, the Colts have already made him an offer, and they're not going any higher. So Rhodes will test the market, and I think he might get more somewhere else. So I think he walks. Justin Houston walks. Danico Autry is I think I'll change that one. I think I'll re-sign Autry because he's very solid in the run game and offers just, I think, a lot more than Justin Houston in the pass rush department. I would love Danico as a possible depth piece as well. TJ Carey, I think we actually look another direction. Anthony Walker, yes, he's walking. I mean, Malik Hooker walks. Yes, Zach Pascal's coming back. I think that's a first-round tender on him, I believe. So, yeah, he's not going anywhere. Mo Alley Cox, I think he's gone. Me personally, I think he's hit his ceiling with the Colts. Can't stay healthy. Inconsistent production and drop some balls. And George Odom, yeah, he's coming back. He was an all-pro. He also has a high tender. He's coming back. So that's what I would do with that list.
AQM stands for Al-Qadim Muhammad, by the way, and then he's got him walking as well. So
I'll bring him back.
You'd bring him back? All right. So we got a lot of positions to fill then. You know, no matter who we're looking at, it sounds like we've got at least one, our CB1, our defensive end one, our left tackle, starting left tackle. Those are three starting positions that absolutely must be filled. Now, obviously, Anthony Walker, Colts probably can't afford to re-sign him. I think he's going to get, anywhere between $10, $12 million a year from another team that needs a guy that is very solid against the run and can do the things that Anthony Walker does, which is very, very good. I mean, he led the team in tackles the last two seasons. Last year, not only did he lead the team in tackles, but he had less snaps than what Darius Leonard had. Mm-hmm. But obviously, Darius Leonard, he had the extra stuff to go along with it, interceptions, sacks, forced fumbles, that kind of stuff. But I think that the spot that Anthony Walker is going to avoid will probably get filled by Bobby Okereke. Now, Bobby is not as good against the run as Anthony Walker is, but I think he covers a little bit more ground in the pass. And since the Colts run a zone scheme and run a lot of nickel, I think that's probably where they're going to lean towards. Is there anyone out there at those three main positions? I'm not even going with the wide receiver right now because wide receiver, in my opinion, I know a lot of people think we don't have a number one. I think we do. I think if T.Y. is not signed, yes, I could see another guy coming back in. But I don't know. Where's your thoughts on that? Do you think the Colts need to go out and sign a big name free agent wide receiver?
No, not at all. My confidence is in Michael Pittman. Zach Pascal is ascending. He's getting better every year. Paris Campbell, it's just got to be. I mean, we don't even know what his role is in this offense 2 years into his career. And that's surprising. That's a long time in this league, but that's also a long time on the injury report, in the trainer's room. I mean, that's just a lot. So I trust in him. I believe Chris Ballard trusts in him as well. You got DeMichael Harris, Desmond Patman. Naheem Hines works out of the slot, so there's a guy that you can use there. But in terms of a big-time free agent, no, we don't need to go there. I would love, a Marvin Jones, good solid vet, number two, works inside and out, or maybe even in the draft, Rashad Bateman, Terrace Marshall. I am very high on those two guys, and that would be my dream to get one of those two guys in.
All right. So any cornerbacks? Because now, in my opinion, I list in order pass rush being number one over left tackle. Now, I'm going to get some pushback by a lot of people, Colts fans especially, who think that, the left tackle position is by far away the most important. I think the pass rush is most important, especially with both of our starting pass rushers gone, most likely. And especially with the zone defense, the way it's ran, it is predicated on that pass rush for it to work at all. Because if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, he could just sit and wait for wide receivers to find those open spots. Left tackle, yes, is important. That's why I've got it a close second. Obviously you got to protect the blind side, especially with Carson Wentz. And then cornerback I have is number 3. Where do you got your list sitting at as most important down?
I'm actually going to go edge rushers number 1, and I completely agree with you. In terms of the importance of the position, left tackle is probably the 3rd most important position in football. Quarterback is obviously number 1. You got a guy that can go out there and score points. But edge rusher, you better have a guy that can stop the opposing quarterback from getting points. And that's just the nature of the business. That's the belly of the beast right there. And edge rusher is by far more important than left tackle. But left tackle is probably, edge rusher, I would probably prioritize corner over left tackle, in my opinion, because we really have to find an answer there, especially in this new league. Everybody's shattering numbers, everybody's scoring points. We got to have someone on the perimeter, and then left tackle, then tight end, and wide receiver. That's where I would go with my list.
All right, so that's interesting. You actually put tight end over wide receiver. When it comes to, we're going to start back at the cornerback position. Then we're going to work our way the back side of the defense, and then work our way to the front line, then the front line of the offense, and work our way back to the running back spots. Which obviously, I don't think there's a single Colt fan out there that thinks we need extra help at running back. So, I think we're fine at safety. Could we go out and get a late draft pick for depth? Possibly, but I think we're pretty good there right now. Cornerback, I fully agree. We need a number 1. Rhodes did a great job, came in. I expected him to come in and play well because when he was with Minnesota, he was injured a lot. And that's why I noticed as soon as he got injured, they wouldn't let him heal up, take him out of the games because their depth was so bad. And that's when he was playing back poorly. If we don't re-sign Rhodes, which I still think there's probably about a 15% chance we do, but I expect someone to offer him 12 mil or more, and I don't think that Ballard is going to go higher than that 9 mil that he offered. Now if it's below 12, he might come back because just a mil or 2 above. I think that's a situation where Rhodes would be like, well, I could either take an extra $1 million or 2 or go back to an organization that I understand, know, and played well at. That's how I see that. Is there a surprise? Well, first off, who would be the number 1 corner in free agency right now that you would go after? And is it a surprise? Is there a surprise guy that a lot of people may not be looking at? You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
There's a lot of guys on this market that are not number 1s right now, but they have number 1 potential. They have the physical traits to be a number 1. And the 2 guys that come to mind are Quentin Dunbar and William Jackson. Those are the 2 guys that I just think very high of. I know my co-host Destin is very high on Shaq Griffin. I just think he'll be a little bit more expensive than what Ballard is going to want to go for. But Quentin Dunbar, I like the fit because I think his best year in the NFL came in Washington when James Rowe was his cornerbacks coach, and James Rowe is now our cornerbacks coach. So I think the fit, the familiarity in that will be a solid fit. With William Jackson, the Colts were interested in him at the trade deadline last year from what we've been told at Colts Brawl. And, just the asking price from Cincy was just too much for Ballard, so he just went ahead and left it alone. So I really like his traits. The footwork, the zone, like he sticks to you in man-to-man. It's just the athleticism just jumps out at you on tape. Those are the two guys I would really, really love to have. Now, if there's like a wild card guy, is Jason Verrett for me. I'm a TCU guy. I'm a roll with my guy. I think he's due for a really great year in the league. So that's my opinion on the cornerbacks.
Okay. Well, see, now I got a couple cornerbacks that I have looked at myself. But you're right. A lot of your main name guys that are free agents right now are 32, 33, 34 years old, and I don't see the Colts actually going out and getting someone like that. I think Mackenzie Alexander is a slim possibility out of what is it, Cincinnati, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I think he returns to Cincy. I think he's going back.
You think so too? I heard you saying something about Brashad Breeland, maybe.
No, I'm not high on him at all.
You're not high on him? Okay.
No,
okay.
Absolutely not. Richard Sherman is a vet that I would bring in. Now, clearly his man-to-man days are far behind him, but in terms of zone, he still offers you some good. I'm not going to say a lot or anything great, but he offers you some good. But the thing is, he'll just bring attitude to that room. That attitude will elevate Kenny Moore. It'll elevate Rock Ya-Sin. It'll elevate a rookie that I think the Colts will bring in from the draft. And I just think that attitude, that championship experience, that football IQ at the position, it will just be so infectious to everyone in the room. And I would love if Richard Sherman came here. Production-wise, he might, I'm not going to lie, he's probably not going to give you much. He will probably get beat. But that attitude, man, it sticks in a locker room.
There you go. What about, was it King from Green Bay? Any thoughts on him? Yeah.
Oh, Kevin King. Oh, man, I know a lot of people are going to say no because of his last performance in the NFC Championship game, but look, he was solid. I liked him coming out of Washington in the draft, and the size and everything. That's solid. He's been very inconsistent in his career, though. So I think getting him with a teacher like James Rowe, and I'm high on James Rowe. Go back and look wherever he's been. Results have shown up everywhere. Interceptions, completion percentage has been probably the lowest wherever he's gone. Appalachian State, best in college football. Washington, statistically the best when he was there. So I would be interested in King, but I know Colts fans will just scream horrible signing, and rightfully so, but some of the traits are there. I know that NFC Championship game is just bled into their minds right now, but you just can't judge a guy off one game. Just like Rock Ya-Sin, he's struggled mightily and gets called for every little thing in the league. He gets beat, but he's still in good position a lot of times, and you just can't give up on a guy that quick.
Yeah, I'm not completely down on Rock Ya-Sin because I think he plays. I'm going to agree with a few of these guys that I have talked to so far. I think he does play zone coverage pretty darn well. It's when you come into that man press, right? Mm-hmm. He starts to get a little bit handsy, and if he either gets called for holding or PI or something like that, and even then he will get beat on certain situations because he is a little too physical with certain types of receivers.
Yeah.
I put up. Now, I don't expect this to happen, but about a month and a half, 2 months ago, right when the season was over with, I was like, you know what? I would love this situation to go down where last year Ballard made a trade with a team that was having cap problems for a guy in a position he wasn't drafting well, right? And got a guy that was really good and gave up a premium pick for him. Now, I could see Ballard going, well, I'm not drafting cornerbacks very well right now. The New Orleans Saints has a premier cornerback called Marshawn Lattimore, I could give them a premier pick. It would free up them $10 million right now signing bonus. I've got the money to extend him. Maybe that could happen. Now, obviously I don't think it would happen, but I think it would be a power move by Ballard if something like that went down. What do you think about something like that?
I would say no to that, just because, I think, me personally, guys like J.C. Horn and Greg Newsome, who could be there at 21, or if you traded back, or Rashad Bateman, or a Terrace Marshall, or maybe Christian Darrisaw, I just feel like their ceiling might be a lot higher than where Marshawn is. Now, it is a great name, and that is a very good point that you made in terms of, trading with a team that has cap problems, a lot of talent, but can you hold on to it, trade away, and get something back? I wouldn't do it personally. I would love a young guy, because I think, Marshawn Lattimore is what, 26, 27 right now?
He'll be 26 this year.
Yeah, I think we can bring in a guy that's 22, 4 more years younger, keep him longer term. And because guys that he's drafted, Kari Willis, Rocky Sin, Ben Banigou, Kamoko Toure, Darius Leonard, Bobby Okereke, they got to get their extensions. And you already put high dollar on Buckner. Now you're putting high dollar on Lattimore. Is that going to, hold your cap to where you can't extend guys like, you got to extend Blackman and Willis at this point. Those are your starters for the future. But I just wouldn't be on board with Lattimore. Now, if it happened, then obviously I'd have no choice. But I would love the fit. I would love what he would bring. But in terms of, draft-wise, cap situation, I would say no.
All right. So, Mal, now we get to the defensive end situation, the pass rush. Now, I'm as big of a Kamoko Toure fan as there can be. However, let's be fair. He has yet to prove that he can put it together for a season, right? Him, Ben Banigou, even Tyquan Lewis, these guys that have been gotten by Ballard. He has yet to show that, he can draft someone. Yes, they have promise, but they haven't shown that they can consistently produce over a season, whether it would be one thing or another, injury or production or whatnot. So the number one pass rusher still needs to be filled. I don't think he's on the team. I think we need to go out and get somebody. There are a lot of good pass rushers out there in free agency right now. Who are a couple of the guys that you're eyeballing, hoping that Chris Ballard has at the top of his list?
Yeah, before getting into that, going in depth on Lewis, Banigou, and Toure, it's not completely on Toure's fault. He got injured, and then this last year, it was really just about re-strengthening that ankle and getting back into football mode. And you still saw a little bit of that speed there. Then he had a very promising rookie year for a second-round pick. And, I know Ben, the TCU relationship and everything. I met him a couple times. So, I even had him on my own show. I believe it was last offseason. And we had a long talk about football. I'm hoping for the best for him this upcoming year as a depth piece to get that motor going, man. Ballard brought him for a reason, and it's time to show. With Lewis, I think he has found his spot in this defense, actually, being an inside-out guy, adding versatility on the inside and then outside. I think he's found his place. I think, I'm high on Lewis, not like he's going to be a starter or anything, but I do have confidence in Lewis now to get into the edge rush class. Everybody's probably going to talk about Carl Lawson. Now, Ballard has that mold, physical traits, measurements that he wants to get, but I think Carl Lawson is going to get overpaid. I think he'll command maybe $14, $15 million. Now, I haven't received any kind of numbers except probably on Xavier Rhodes from a source. Everything outside of Rhodes, I have not received any kind of number on. So if I was Ballard, maybe I'd throw $10 million at him because, what have you done? He hasn't done much, but the physical traits show. So it's going to be interesting. For that one, he's probably edge rusher number one. Romeo Okwara is probably my personal favorite. The long arms, the athleticism to put it all together. He's good in the run game. I would really love him. But I think Bud Dupree is very an underrated option, not an underrated player, an underrated option. He's coming off an injury. Ballard, you have the money, and you can sign him to just a 1-year or 2-year deal. Front load the contract. If it doesn't work out, you don't owe any money. You can cut him and not have anything against your cap. Now you have more money to extend or sign another piece next offseason. So I think he's a really good option to possibly come to Indy. I think the chances of that happening are pretty high. But, I mean, if we're talking about other pieces, Hassan Reddick is my co-host Destin's favorite guy. I was definitely high on him coming out of Temple in the draft. In Arizona, they were just using him wrong. He has the athleticism to come off the edge, not play in space, not chase down running backs, cover slot receivers. That's just not his game. I would love to see him. Solomon Thomas, Ryan Kerrigan. Those are underrated options that I would definitely look at. Ryan Kerrigan, I think I would take him over a Justin Houston right now because athletically, he's just better than Justin Houston. Justin Houston does not have those moves anymore. It's just a bull rush. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, it'll be pretty embarrassing. But I think my number one guy would probably be Romeo Okwara. I would really love to have him. And, $10 million a year for that guy would be a very good contract, especially if he hasn't even reached his ceiling yet in the league. Get with the Colts, get with Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner. You're not going to be facing double teams. You're going to be facing one-on-ones. And I love that potential.
My number one, believe it or not, is actually Yannick Ngakoue. And you didn't even name him. Yeah. I love Yannick.
Very underrated. I'm sorry. So sorry to cut you off. Okay. But Yannick Ngakoue, man, that is a guy. I don't know if he's a number one option right now because in Jacksonville, look, he had all that talent around him and he flourished in it. Being the number one guy hasn't replicated that season. He hasn't shown that. The physical traits are still there. I would love a pairing of Bud Dupree and Yannick Ngakoue, or maybe even Yannick Ngakoue and Hassan Reddick. I would love that tandem. Athletically, the traits, the footwork. I mean, that first step, the get off is just amazing. And I would love that tandem. And I'm so sorry, Yannick, that I did not include you, but he is a guy I would definitely look into.
All right. So now we go moving on into the left tackle. Now that's a situation. Personally, I think this is a situation where if I was Ballard, I wouldn't be going after any big names. I would go after kind of your average, everyday, run-of-the-mill, good veteran, and then use the depth in the draft to go grab my left tackle of the future. Where are you looking at when it comes to the left tackle position?
Oh, man, I was very, very 100% looking at the draft. I wasn't even looking at this class. But clearly, I did my homework on everything just to stay educated on everyone. And Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, man, that changes the conversation. Does it change Ballard's plans? I don't think so, personally. But it changes the conversation because if you can get Schwartz, who will be cheaper than Fisher, you can plug him at right tackle for a couple years, move Braden Smith over to left tackle. I feel like Ballard has a bigger interest in moving Smith than he does Nelson because that left side of the line, no sacks are coming from that side of the line. I can just tell you now, Jonathan Taylor is going to have the bulk of his carries go on that side of the line, and we're going to have a lot of success. Me personally, that's where I would go. I would plug in Schwartz and I would put Smith at left tackle. But, cap reasons and all that stuff, the draft is just so complicated, man. There's so much elite talent I feel like is going to be there. At 21, J.C. Horn, Bateman, Darrisaw. Honestly, I would probably value Bateman and Horn over Darrisaw just because of the premier position. I get the importance of the blind side blocking. But if those guys are there, I am easily, not even looking back, taking Horn or Bateman over Darrisaw. I believe that's the biggest question of this offseason. What do you do at left tackle? Clearly, the number one need is edge rusher. We've talked about that. But left tackle, man, that is the most interesting debate of all. I think ultimately you do take a guy like, say, round 2, round 3, because I just don't think Darisaw is going to be there. Jackson Carman or, Spencer Brown, Alex Leatherwood, solid guys like that. We don't need to go get an all-pro. We don't have to go find the next Anthony Costanzo or anything. We just have to find a guy that's going to do the job well. And Jared Veldheer is by far a Pro Bowler, but he played very well in the snaps that he played for Indianapolis. So I think that's set, Ballard, that, we don't have to aim high for a left tackle. We can find a good replacement.
Yeah, when Veldheer came in, everybody was like, I don't know, what's he like? I was like, he played for Green Bay. He was actually pretty darn good. It's just he had issues with his body wasn't able to handle up to an entire season. And then the Colts, went out against Buffalo. The very next week, he signed back with Green Bay for, their game. And we're just like, well, duh, No, just watching the games from last year when Anthony Costanzo out and you had Chaz Green and oh man, I wanted to say a cuss word, but Clark out there because I'm sorry, I thought we should have got rid of Raven Clark 2 years ago when I was watching him in training camp. I understand that Ballard liked his arm length and stuff like that, but he was just bad. All right.
I don't think he was a draft choice by Ballard. I think he was a draft choice by Grigson, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, he still liked him.
Physical traits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because of the traits. So it wasn't proper to sit here and watch our backups play in the place of Anthony Costanzo because they were just bad backups, right? So I mean, if you throw in just an average left tackle currently right now, beside Quentin Nelson, he's going to play fine because he knows he's got Nelson helping on the inside. All he has to do is really focus on making sure the speed edge rushers don't get around him, right? Because he knows he's got help on the inside.
Yeah.
So I don't have an issue with going after like a Riley Rife or something of that nature, as well as a name that you hadn't brought up. I don't believe it was brought up a lot in chat, and I agree with a lot of those guys out there. Or some of the names you came up with. Now, there's a couple like the Kansas City guys. They are currently hurt. And one of them is actually, expected not to be able to start the season. So that's a little bit of a worry there. But there are a few good left tackles out there. I think that could be a plug and play guy that obviously you're not going to get production the way you would like a Trent Williams. But they're not going to cost $20 million a year either, right? All right, so we're done with the left tackle position. Like I said, guys, I will get to the chat after we get done with our current conversation. I'm going to take this moment. Please don't forget, hit that like button, like it says down there at the bottom, scrolling across. Smash the subscribe if you're not subscribed. There's also a share button that you can share to your favorite social media, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And don't forget to give Michael a follow as well over on Twitter, or Colts Brawl over there on Twitter. Now, tight end. Let's get just offside of that tackle position. Let's go to tight end. I want Mo Alley-Cox back. I am on the opposite end of you. I actually believe Mo Alley-Cox, we haven't seen what he can do yet. Because Mo Alley-Cox had just as many snaps as Jack Doyle last year, if you didn't know that. He played just as much, but he was held inside to block 90% of the snaps, which is, I kind of understand a lot of that had to do with, the tackle, Anthony Costanzo being out. Also had a lot to do with the fact the Colts were running the football a lot, and Phillip Rivers couldn't move very much. You're muted again. Yeah. So I like him. I think Doyle and Cox is good. I still wouldn't mind bringing in another tight end. I understand a lot of people like Jonnu Smith. I love Jonnu Smith, but there's also other guys out there that I would like as well. There's a tight end out of Seattle, Hollister, that I actually think is like a younger version of Jack Doyle. I think he's a very solid tight end, underrated NFL wise. What are your thoughts at the tight end position?
Oh, look, I mean, if we're bringing Mo Alley-Cox back to be number 3, I'll sign up for that. But number one, I just don't see it. I haven't seen it at all. The big catches, those freakishly large hands. Okay, but drop passes, can't stay healthy. I'm all the way off on him being number one. Jack Doyle, I've always said this on Colts Brawl. We need to get athletic at the position. We have to add speed. We have to add route running. We have to add all of that. And Jonnu Smith is the perfect free agent to come to Indianapolis. I've always said that the tight end position is going to drive, just like the three tech drives that Tampa 2. I feel like the tight end, outside of the quarterback, obviously, drives that RPO system. It just, go back to Philadelphia. Not only was it Zach Ertz, you had Dallas Goedert, you had Trey Burton. You had solid 3 options to go to when Jeffrey wasn't open, when Aguilar wasn't open. You had those options. And I think Jonnu, he's already a great blocker, clearly, because they did nothing but run the football in Tennessee. From my understanding, he wants to catch more balls. He wants to get more receiving yards. I don't blame him. Jonnu Smith is my dream, man. He's just, I see it. He can easily become an elite tight end if everything works out the way we think it will between Reich and Wentz. He has the talent, in my mind, to be the best tight end in football after, Kelsey and Gronk maybe retire or just be the number 2 to Kelsey. I see that in Smith. Now, other options, Hunter Henry, very injury prone, but I like him. He's solid. Trey Burton, I feel like he's still a candidate to be brought back, but there was just way too many misblocked assignments from him.
Awful at blocking.
Oh, awful. I mean, even the play against Buffalo, Taylor was stopped at the line. Burton did, and for some reason, everybody blamed that on Reich. But Burton's job was to pick up the safety, and he did not do that. I believe it was the 4th down against Houston. Taylor was stopped up the middle. That was Burton's job, to pick up that linebacker. He did not pick him up. As a number 3, I'd like that. But Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, Dan Arnold is already signed elsewhere. So I feel like if it's not Jonnu Smith, Ertz, or Henry, I truly feel like we go and snag one. And it's also a decent class as well in the draft for tight end. I think we look to the draft for that position. But those are my top 3 guys. I truly don't want anyone else except one of those 3 guys. But Jonnu Smith is by far my number 1 option outside of any edge rush signing.
All right. So we're 42 minutes in, and we're finally getting to the wide receiver position. Now, the wide receiver, like I said, if we bring back Zach Pascal, which I fully expect them to because he's just an RFA, it won't take much to bring him back unless some other team really offers major money for him, and I don't know if they will. I like Pascal. I think he's a solid, number 2 option if need be, and he can block in the run the same way Michael Pittman Jr. can do. So I actually am pretty high on Zach coming back to the Colts. If T.Y. Hilton doesn't re-sign, I think we would be best at going and getting another guy who could play kind of a slot position just because Paris Campbell has yet to show that he can stay healthy. Yeah. And my number 1 option this season would be Curtis Samuel.
Yep.
Go ahead. Talk.
Yeah. I mean, I mouthed it. I wasn't going to talk over you, but Curtis Samuel for me. The fit is obvious. Can work, the top half of the field. He can work underneath, solid route runner, electric with the ball in his hands. Much more athletic than T.Y. He is fast. He is a technician at route running, but athletically, you can probably do a little bit more with Samuel. I loved him coming out of the draft, but I think he would be just a solid fit. Now, I would love Samuel if T.Y. didn't come back, like you said. I wouldn't look his way. If T.Y. came back, I would not look his way, because when it comes to the small guys, man, Lawrence, I got to be honest with you, man. I'm just not high on the small guys. I'm not. Even like Rondale Moore and Kadarius Toney in the draft. It's easy to get yak in college because majority of those guys are not even going to touch a ball in the NFL. But in the NFL, that's going to go away. Christian Kirk was lighting up Texas A&M. Got to the NFL, haven't heard from him since. Tyreek Hill, because of that speed, if you got the speed, man, done. Curtis Samuel is one of those rare underneath, small guys that has really done it. Cole Beasley as well. but I want someone big. I want someone with long arms, sure hands. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Rashad Bateman, or anything like that. But yeah, Curtis Samuel, if T.Y. does not come back, that would be where I would look to. Or Marvin Jones.
Yeah, a lot. Now, my biggest issue is, and it's something else that I'm talking about with the free agency. I don't expect Chris Ballard to make any moves first probably 3 days of free agency. I think he's just going to sit back and watch the big names come off the board at an overpriced contracts because, as I would talked about before, the Colts are sitting about, I don't know, 6th, 7th right now currently in the NFL, sitting about $45-46 million in cap space. There's only, I think, 7 teams with more than $30 million in cap. The rest of it's $20 million or less. And there's going to be more players than there is money this season when it comes to the draft or when it comes to free agency. I think the first couple of days, you're going to see some teams really chomp out their cap space. And then it's going to start to get slim pickings, and you're going to be able to get players at a lot better prices on contract wise. You might start seeing a lot of 1 year smaller deals going on at reasonable height of the contract. I could see Ballard, like I said, just sitting out at least the first 3 days and just be like, all right, there goes everybody. Now we're sitting with $46 million and we're the second highest team left. Now I can start doing some business and getting some quality players at reasonable prices rather than getting superstars at ridiculous prices. And you're muted, so I want your opinion on if you agree with me or not.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say he'll just sit back and just let all the guys come in, but he'll make his offer. I mean, the offers I'm pretty sure are ready. And as soon as the period is open, boom, here's what I'm offering. If you want to take a couple of days, talk with other teams, that's my offer. It's not going high. It's not going low. Next phone call I expect is you're coming to Indianapolis or you're going elsewhere. Boom. Simple. I think that's the way it'll be. Ballard, I feel like is going to be aggressive. I still wouldn't be surprised if he just did sit back and didn't make a signing until a week into free agency. But
it's what Traylor says. He expects him to wait a whole week before signing anyone.
Yeah, I would not be surprised by that. But I just feel like you got your quarterback. You're about to start extending guys. The window is cracking. The window is almost here, and you need to start making moves. Now, could that, it's just so hard because we've had Chris Ballard as our GM for 4 years, and we still don't even know what he's going to do. We still just struggle to feel like, what is he going to do? And I will say that I think it is likely he makes one signing 3 days into free agency, and it's going to be the guy that he truly wants and he's not going to miss out on. Hopefully, obviously he's not going to go higher than his original number, but I just think that signing is probably going to be Bud Dupree.
All right. So we're as I showed here, I'm going to be getting into this chat right now. Now, Joseph Thornburg says that Ngongwe would be a baller, but don't expect him to do much in the run game, but he'd be ideal. Now, as I did my film room on Yannick, I found something very, very impressive. Now, he's not real strong when it comes to holding his own, but his eyes are always kept up and on the ball. That is one thing that I really like about him as opposed to other pass rushers who, you got that hard bend and dip and bend where they lose track of where the football is. He doesn't do that. He has a different style of edge pass rush where he uses a stiff arm to push a guy back, and he's able to see where he's going. Then he can collapse that arm when he knows where the ball's at and then spin either way at the last second to get to the ball carrier. I think Yannick is very good when it comes to not only rushing the passer, but also in like screens and stuff because he has his head up and he's watching the quarterback and what he's doing.
I will say, Yannick, he got blown off the line by Michael Pittman this year. I remember watching that game again, and I believe it was just a run that Jonathan Taylor had out to the left, a zone left, and I just remember seeing a guy got completely pushed off the line, and I'm like, dang, who did Jack Doyle, who did Anthony Costanzo get? And I'm like, that's Michael Pittman. And I'm like, oh, man, who did he get? And it was Yannick Ngakoue. He got just blocked out of my screen, man. I mean, I'm like, that's not a good look. And that just showed how strong and how good of a blocker Pittman is.
Yeah, Pittman is just a really solid blocker.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about the Patriot stuff on this stream. And even that, it was even a Colts guy. Actually, one of my best friends was talking about the Cam contract. All right, my number one receiver is Marvin Jones. He thinks he's underrated. This is Dragon 34. Wants to sign Marvin Jones. I wouldn't mind Marvin Jones. I think he'll be less expensive than Galladay, and someone I think he's okay. He's not horrible. As long as he's not horrible, I think Carson Wentz can make something out of him. My only issue is he going to be overpriced? Because Marvin Jones does have a bit of a name in the NFL currently.
Yeah. I honestly don't think he will be because of the guys that are on the market and the great guys that are in the draft. Some teams are probably going to want to hold that spot for a guy in the draft. And Marvin Jones doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to go to a team like the Jets or anything like that. I think he'll want to go to a contender. And I just feel like his skill set, inside and out, can be a gadget player. He runs very physical. His route running is just so physical, man. I love physicality in this game that the league has just taken away from all of us. So we try to enjoy the little pockets that we can. But yeah, I would say I would agree with Dragon 2024. I believe that's what the name was. And I do want him in Indianapolis, man. Marvin Jones, he's a guy that's going to get his, and he's going to teach, Paris, Naheem, DeMichael, and Desmond, and Michael. I think he'll teach him some things.
Speaking of guys that you talking about bringing in here, Richard Sherman, he's a guy I think could teach a few things. But Jamie Miller says that he might be too much of a major headache, that he runs his mouth too much. Do you think that his personality might be a little bit too big for what Ballard wants to bring in?
Oh man, that is interesting. Richard Sherman, he's not going to be held back by anyone. But playing with, the familiarity with Buckner, solid guy, and Leonard, Richard Sherman, he's not going to change. He's not going to change. Could he be a headache? Probably. But just that leadership, that dog, that mentality, man, I think it would be infectious to Kari Willis. I think Julian Blackmon will be a different player. I think this is, and we've always talked about it, can Ballard bring in a guy that could be like a little bit questionable in the locker room or anything like that? As a locker room presence, man, I don't think he'll be a problem at all. Could we possibly see him getting into an argument with Matt Eberflus or something? Yeah, but that's football, man. Those are going to happen all the time, and it's just a matter of if the camera turns to it or not. That's just what happens, man. I don't read into all that sideline drama unless it's like very big, but those arguments, those intense conversations, those are going to happen on every sideline, man. They happen more times than what we've seen from the camera. So I still would like Sherman at a good price to be like a good number 3 veteran. He'll just bring so much, I feel like, to the defense, to the secondary room. I just love the potential of that.
All right. Dragon 34 says, bro, Marshawn Lattimore is 24. Oh, well, good.
What?
That's right. He did come in as a youngster into the NFL. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a heck of a – yep. Yeah, Trayla says Toure needs to stay healthy and out of his own head. That's, again, I love the upside of Kamoko Toure. I did a film room on him last offseason. I think he's got tremendous upside. He's got to stay healthy. Ben Banigou, same way. I think Ben Banigou is a younger version of what we saw from the guy that we signed off the Patriots. Yes, I think he's a younger version of Jamal Sheard. It kind of the way I see him play style wise. I think, we have guys who have a decent, ceiling, but they got to show it. They got to give us consistency over. I want to see consistency over a 2-year period, not just 1 year. You wait until your final year of your contract, then you finally show consistency. That's not enough for me to give you a good contract, because so 3 out of 4 years you weren't doing worth a darn. What? Can't do that with us, man. Trayla says that Bud Dupree will get overpaid. I think he will. I think there's a lot of those pass rushers, especially right now. I think there's going to be a lot of pass rushers come off the board quickly off of free agency in the first few days. I think there's going to be a lot of money spent on pass rush and offensive line. I think those are going to be the two positions that are going to light it up this offseason because, let's face it. That's what we saw in the Super Bowl, this past Super Bowl. It was about that D-line and that O-line. And it proved you need a good defense up front and you need a good offensive line up front to protect against those defenses. Right. So I think there'll be a big run in free agency and possibly in the draft because of that right there.
Yeah. I know Kansas City needs to upgrade that defense.
Kansas City need to upgrade everything but their wide receivers and running backs and quarterbacks.
Yeah, the defense has definitely overachieved, in my opinion. I just don't see any talent on that team besides Jones, Clark, and Matthew. And even Matthew gets beat a lot, and just people just don't want to talk about that. I watched the film on him. Man, he gets beat on double moves a lot. He gets beat.
Jason David, thank you for joining. Loved it when you were on the Colts way back in the day. I am predicting now Colts trade back with the Browns first round for a 3rd and the 26th overall. I would be okay with that as long as there was a difference maker at 21, right? Yep. If someone slides, if a difference maker of left tackle or defensive end or even cornerback, something that we need, one of our top 3 needs, in my opinion. If one of those slide and you're like, that is a blue chip prospect, and he slid the 21 to the Colts, I would take him before anything else. Now, if there isn't one of those, sure, I have no problem trading back for an extra 3rd round pick. You?
Oh man. It would probably have to be Darisaw or Horn. I know I've mentioned guys like Newsome and Marshall, but I think they'll be available if we do trade back to 26. And that's actually a trade that I've done in my mocks. I've traded back with Cleveland because they could possibly look for wide receiver help. It looks like Odell's maybe on his way out. More pass rush help. Olivier Vernon, he's not going to be there. Myles Garrett, do you want all of that put on him? Maybe, but I agree. If it's Horn or Darisaw, you can't pass up on that, man. No matter how much we want that 3rd round pick back, you got to take those guys, man. Those guys have high ceilings in the league, just high. I'm so high on those two. If we did trade back, Marshall, Newsome, those guys would just be my dream.
Well, the thing about left tackle, I think there's the depth at tackle in this draft. Yes. There's going to be starter qualities all the way through the 2nd round, in my opinion. I think there's
in the 3rd round would be a pickup.
Yeah. Colts Nation says, Jason David, about the trade. We could get Jalen Phillips at 26. Now that depends. I love Jalen Phillips. Now Zach Hicks said he loves him too, except for the simple fact, he had to be forcefully retired due to concussions back at USC now, or I think it was USC that you played at. UCLA, that's it. Yeah, I get those two mixed up sometimes. But that was after his motorized vehicle accident, and he had those bad concussions. He got forced, came back in Miami, showed out. Loved how he played in Miami. And Miami's got some defensive ends coming out there. Wazoo right now. They got like 3 of them in the top 6 or 7, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah. But the problem is I think that Jalen's one of those guys that if a team gets away from that and says, you know what, we're going to take a chance here, his upside is too good, I think he could get picked before 21. So, yeah, I really do. I think he's got the potential to be one of those. Do you remember Javon Curse from the Titans way back in the day, known as the Freak? I don't know if you're old enough.
No, man, too. Nah,
Okay, so Javon Curse, kind of similar play style as Jalen Phillips, and he is a big, long, lanky defensive end, right? And very quick get off the line. He was just dominating, and that's kind of where I see Jalen Phillips playing. He has the potential to be a consistent 10 to 14 sack guy every season, in my opinion. Even coming right out the gate, I think that he's got that potential, which means if someone's got that kind of potential, it might be worth going ahead and taking a shot on him.
Mm-hmm. I will say before we move on this edge class, I just don't think there's a guy that goes before 15. I just don't see it. There's not a Chase Young. There's not a Nick Bosa. I know Kwity Paye has a lot of upside, but I just don't see him going top 10. I don't see him going top 15. I do wrestle back and forth with my co-host Destin about this position because he's fixated on day one production, but I'm focused on production over the next 10 years. Can you imagine if you get Gregory Rousseau, and he's still a very young player, man? Can you imagine if he fills out his frame and, builds that repertoire of moves? Oh my gosh, dude, that's what I would take. But again, is there someone on the board that you won't pass up? I'm open to that. At 21, I still don't even think I would take Phillips or Rousseau there. But if we traded back to 26 or 29, those are guys that I would definitely look at. I mean, the upside over the next 10 years, that's what I'm focused on at that position. But day one production, come on, man. Not even Chase Young wasn't given the keys to the defense day one. That's just not how it goes. Nick Bosa wasn't given the keys in San Francisco day one. That's just not how it goes. But long-term success, I think it's just based on potential in this class.
Okay. Justin Whitner, thanks for joining, my guy. I do not want to move Braden Smith. I'd rather put Will Holden over there at left tackle than moving Braden Smith.
Okay, I got to talk about this. Okay, so when we get into this conversation about, even with Big Q, when we talk about, I don't want him to move him to left tackle because we would be weakening 2 positions. How do you weaken one position when you put an all-pro, the best offensive lineman at left tackle? He still has the footwork. He still has the hands. He still has the strength. He's still going to maul. You're not downgrading the left tackle position. You might even be upgrading the left tackle position past Anthony Costanzo. How are you downgrading left tackle? Left guard? What? Do you want to get Deontay Brown? Do you want to go grab, Brandon Scherf's already been franchise tagged, but do you want to go grab a young guy in the draft, Wyatt Davis or anything like that? You're not weakening both positions. You're not. I can tell you that right now. You're not doing that.
I'm going to push back on you just a little bit.
Okay.
There is a reason why I don't want to put Nelson at left tackle.
Okay.
Because he is an amazing puller. And if you put him at left tackle, that limits what you can do when it comes to pulling to the right side with him, because you got to keep a left tackle over there to keep pursuit off that defensive ends or blitzing cornerbacks or something of that nature. So I would, if you move Quentin Nelson, who is a 10 out of 10 at guard, at the left guard, without any question. Let's say you take him and put him over at left tackle, you get a 9 out of 10 left tackle out of Quentin Nelson. Just assume. And that's I think that's reasonable to expect a 9 out of 10 out of him. But then you put somebody at the guard and you're only getting a 5 out of 10.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
so okay.
You and I are going to agree there, because I put that as an example. And put it perfectly in another example. You put that perfectly. So I've already said, and I don't think I said it, but I hinted at it when I talked about Ballard, talked about Smith more than Nelson going to left tackle. I'll agree that. But Smith, just like Ballard said, it's a golf player just learning how to play right-handed instead of left-handed. You're going to learn. You're just going to pick it up. Braden Smith has those tools. Footwork just like Quentin. And you're completely right. Me personally, I'm with you. Keep Big Q at left guard, because he is the driving force of that run game. Ryan Kelly, I love him. But Quentin Nelson is the driving force of that run game. Keep him there. But Smith to left tackle, you're not weakening that. You're not. You're still going to be very good at that position. We don't need all pro at tackles, guys. We just need guys who can block. That's it. And as much as we hate Chaz Green, I thought he played okay, just okay at right tackle. He was god-awful at left, but he played okay at right tackle. I think that Green Bay game kind of, won me my feelings over just a tad bit. But say if you go in the draft and get Spencer Brown at right tackle, now you're set. Now you're set. You don't have to go extend Spencer Brown immediately. You can wait another few years or get Alex Leatherwood, Jackson Carman. Who knows?
I'm hearing that Alex Leatherwood is predicted to be brought in and put in at guard rather than tackle.
I'm hearing both, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did become a guard.
Okay. Jason David asks if I'm over 1,000 subs yet. Yes, I am. Thank you very much for asking.
Congratulations.
Yeah, the super chats, super stickers are available. In case if you guys don't know. Shreyla says he would like Rudolph at tight end. What are your thoughts on Kyle?
Oh man, that's an interesting name. I'd probably say no. I just want to stay athletics to get a little bit younger at the position, and yeah, I mean we would have to cut Jack Doyle in my opinion, but even that I don't even know if that's happening. So I probably don't even have much to say on Kyle Rudolph.
All right, I think Rudolph would be okay for a 1-year deal, but I don't like him long term because of the simple fact that he is at that age that he may literally be dropping off right now. So that makes me a little bit of worried. What's going on, Ant Rogers? Thanks for joining. Appreciate you being here, my guy. Finally. Let's see here. We got Speedboat says that Sherman's leadership would help our backfield a lot.
It would.
Even if he's not a starter.
Nope.
Even if he's your dime package guy. I think it would be okay to have him as someone who could bring in that leadership, especially that Super Bowl leadership, right?
Yes.
I know that we're getting close to about that time. I don't want Villanueva from Pittsburgh. I watched his tape from last year. He has downgraded horribly. So no to Villanueva. Guys, I think I'm getting I'm actually holding Michael a little over than what the time actually was. Colts Talk says hit the like button. Please, thank you so much. I would really appreciate helps with the analytics. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be back at another let's see. I don't know if I'm going to be live streaming tomorrow. I will be on Monday with Harrison Woods from the UK, and then Tuesday I'll have Kevin Bowen on. So thank you, Michael. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And man, don't forget, hit that description down there. Check out where you can find him. Check out where you can find Colts Brawl. And I believe it's a direct link to Colts Brawl, the page. So make sure you check that out. Some really good content there. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen with Michael here from Colts Brawl. As usual, have a good one.
All right. So I guess now you understand what the plan was.
Absolutely. At Colts Law, we talk Indianapolis Colts football.
We're going to stick to what we know, fundamentals and technique, 1% better every day.